With me now in the studio is the Green Party's Stephen Agnew. The Greens are standing 3 candidates in this election. They have, of course, got 1 MLA at Stormont, but no representation at Westminster. After last year's European campaign, Mr Agnew secured just over 3% of the vote. You're very welcome to the programme. Mentioning what's going on there in Fermanagh, your MLA Brian Wilson, he condemned the unionist deal to back Rodney Connor as sectarian. I mean, how can that be, given that they're trying to replace an MP who refuses to go to Westminster with one who will actually do the job?
Well, because they're trying to do the same thing in South Belfast as well, and to some extent in North Down, so it's not about just one constituency. I mean, ultimately what this is saying is every time Northern Ireland there's an election is held, the parties go back into these camps of unionist and nationalism as if that's the only issue. I mean, last year you asked me yourself, why didn't I jump into bed with the Alliance candidate? As if there's only unionist, nationalist or some kind of other. There are bigger issues to address. We're in the middle of a recession. Parties should be laying out their stall on economic issues, on environmental issues and social justice issues. I mean, we've just heard the First Minister of Northern Ireland, one of the key issues in Westminster. What does he think? Oh, well, both sides have got important points to make. That's not good enough. That's not leadership. And in Northern Ireland, I think our voters deserve better than that. Well,
but bringing you back to Fermanagh, OK, South Belfast, it's a different matter. Alistair MacDonald represents that constituency, has done so in Westminster up until the end of this Parliament. But in North Down, if the outgoing MP, Lady Sylvia Herman, was to say, oh, I'm going to be abstentionist, not turn up to Parliament at all, would you consider that good enough, if it's good enough for Fermanagh?
I mean, that's obviously Sinn Féin's choice. It's not a decision we'd make ourselves. And actually, again, when there's a chance to influence government decision-making within Westminster on behalf of the people of Northern Ireland, I think we should all take the opportunity where we can take it. But, as I say, every time in Northern Ireland, the European elections, the Green Party was the only party that talked about jobs. Now, people were losing their jobs all over the place. What were the big parties talking about? They were talking about, oh, well, we have to make sure unionism tops the poll. How relevant is that? You know, it's not is the matter. It's not discussed in Westminster. We have the Good Friday Agreement that says the only way constitution of this part of the UK changes is if the voters decide. The politicians have no power over it. You come election time, the scare stories come out. You have to back a unionist. You have to back a nationalist. It's nonsense. It's not relevant.
Well, you accused Peter Robinson there of effectively sitting on the fence over the big issues of national insurance, protecting public services. Where do you sit on that argument?
I think Labour have got us into a position where the national insurance rise is probably necessary. We do need to make sure there's some money coming into the public purse. We do need to protect public services. Particularly in Northern Ireland, we're particularly vulnerable. If we don't protect our public services, essentially we're laying more people off and we do risk going back into a recession. But let's face it, Labour created the problem that they now have to deal with. They forgot when the times were good about the old adage of, putting money aside for a rainy day. The rainy day has come, we have no money, and now they're having to claw it out of the voters who are suffering every which way because of it.
Well, you're in favour of protecting public services, and yet the Green Party south of the border have been part of a coalition which has cut back drastically on public spending.
Again, we inherited a problem created by the previous government, and we're having to do what we can. But work services have been cut. For example, we were criticised for a Green Party being in government where transport services were cut. We weren't happy with that, so we negotiated a deal with Fianna Fáil where we take over the Transport Ministry and we ensure that the public transport is protected.
You put out a news release just a few days ago calling on parties not to accept donations from property developers. Was that a way of having a go at the Robinsons and the DUP?
This is something our party has always stood for, and we're just pointing out now this is why we don't take donations from businesses, corporations, property developers. How many people have walked past and gone, how did that ever get planning permission? Well, they're starting to see now how some things get planning permission. It's through lobbying by parties who are receiving donations from these people. And I think that...
Well, who do you take donations from then?
We take donations from our members. Our members...
What if they're a business person?
They would have to be registered as such, but they couldn't come from their business. It would have to come from them personally as an individual. And we believe that all public donations, or all political donations, should be made public. There's certain parties in Northern Ireland trying to resist that, but there is going to be a consultation underway in October, I believe, to see that happening. The big parties have hidden by the fact, well, our donors don't want to be made public because of the security threat. let's face it, if we're moving on, we're having normalised politics, let's make those donations public. But I can assure you we don't have any dodgy ties, and we're quite happy to see political donations published.
Tomorrow at the Assembly, the Alliance leader David Ford is expected to be, he's certainly the favourite to be the new Justice Minister. Now, the Greens are part of the same bloc in Stormont as Alliance, so in the future, does that make you part of the executive or part of the opposition?
Our member, Brian Wilson, is still very much part of the opposition. He won't be in cabinet meetings, or I should say executive meetings, so he's very much in the opposition role, and will continue to play that role, hopefully as effectively as we have done for the past 3 years.
He's introducing a private member's bill to ban hunting. Now, he's been an MLA since 2007. This is the first private member's bill he's brought forward on any topic. Hasn't it taken a rather long to actually get a bill together?
The process is a long process, essentially. I mean, every time we tried to progress this bill, an executive bill came forward and we were told, sorry guys, we're busy, there's limited resources in Stormont, plus the fact that we have one MLA, we can't share those duties out amongst other members. So, Brian has a big workload, but this was something he wanted to do. It's something we feel is an important issue, and it's an anomaly that we're the only part of the UK that still allows this barbaric sport.
Just finally, I mean, over in England, the Greens do have hopes of getting an MP, maybe in Brighton, where Caroline Lucas, the Green Party leader there, is standing. But here, to be honest, it's going to be an awfully long shot at just over 3% of the vote from the European elections. In a first-past-the-post election, isn't a vote for the Green Party a wasted vote?
I don't believe it's a wasted vote at all. At the end of the day, democracy is about saying what you think, not. I don't believe in technical voting personally. I think if you're happy with our sitting MPs, who, let's face it, the four big parties all have sitting MPs, vote for them. But if you want to see real change, vote for somebody who's not already in there.
Stephen Agnew, thanks very much for joining us on Inside Politics.